Hi guys, it's Michał from Hypnotic Techno Production. Today I want to share with you an excerpt of the masterclasses we had in our community where I was teaching about basslines and low end. And we particularly focused on different bassline patterns, writing techniques and the sound design. We also went through the topics of like tuning a kick to the bassline, of making sure that there is enough separation between the sounds, or creating multi-layered low end comprising of different bassline elements. We also went into sound design and some mixdown strategies, but for now I want to share with you roughly a 35 minutes part of that masterclass. I'm sure it will be very useful for beginner producer or for the people who feel and think that they struggle with basslines, that they lack depth, they lack the clarity, or just basically a quality of the bassline. So dive in, 35 minutes, take some notes, do nothing in the meantime. You will benefit a lot from this session. Take care, see you on the next video. Okay, this one seems a bit long. Okay, so if we look at this kick, you can see that this kick has already like 200, almost 300 milliseconds. What does that mean? If we are operating in the tempo of, let's say 130, if we are operating in the tempo of 130, then our length of the bar, or let's say one note, a quarter note, is, we can see it over here. Let me just turn on one bit. Yeah, I'm just gonna enable the cursor. So you're gonna see it here. So it's 462 milliseconds. Yeah, so our half note lasts 231 milliseconds. Our 16th note lasts only 115 milliseconds. So if I would like to create something new, yeah, with using this kick number 1, if I play it like that, and because of the sampler being, so it works that it triggers, so the whole sample, you see the whole sample plays. Yeah, so because of the sample being so long, it almost takes up that much space, yeah? It almost takes up more than a half note. So I cannot have the bass line, let's do it here or maybe here for example. I cannot have the bass line, or I could, but it will be very hard to squeeze the bass line that would also be very low and will populate all of those notes, because I have the kick being so long. Does that make sense so far? Let me know in the chat, please, or someone can just speak if you like. All right, Julian, you are raising your hand. Do you want to ask or add anything? You can just unmute yourself or ask the question on the chat. So okay, so that makes sense. So one thing you need to understand, like you cannot have both. So the main principle will be like, either I'm gonna go for a strong long kick, and in that instance, if we would like to keep this kick that way, I would probably go with my, because of this kick being, you see, it plays G sharp 0. Okay, so just write down your question, Julian, please. You see, this kick plays G sharp 0, so it will be very hard to squeeze a bass line that will be playing over here. Let's for example do something like that, yeah? So very simple, very short. Okay, I can do that, but I can already hear that this note is almost missing. So the way I would approach it, and the way I was taught, is actually to raise the bass line a bit, at least a third. So if this kick plays G sharp, my bass line, to make it very clear and good for mixing, I would raise it a third. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. Yeah, four semitones, 3 at least, but let's do 4, 5 semitone. This is safe zone. Everything above, that's gonna be safe. So let's hear how this gonna sound. Let's do it that way. So let's see how that's gonna sound. And I'm going to duplicate this. I'm doing this in Live 11, and I'm going to give you this project. So, and I did that on purpose to do it in Live 11, because I know not maybe every one of you have already made a update. So this is the case. So first 2 notes, we're only going to hear, you see? So right now, this F is missing in my opinion. And then let's switch to that one. I think this is much clearer. We could even go like maybe something like this. Now you see, if we go to the master channel, let's do span. Like this is our kick. And we can see the bass line. Maybe we can actually trim. Yeah, so that's. So I think in this instance, we really need to think like of those frequencies and making space for our sounds. Yeah, so strong, long kick, you want a high bass line. Other examples, let's say example when we will, let me do another one. Example where we're gonna have a really short kick. So let's play this one. Let me cha-cha-cha. So this, let's look at this kick. This one is really short, you see? I can maybe do it even a bit shorter. Yeah, I think right now we only have a kick that lasts, let's say with this tempo, roughly a 16th. So right now we could do a bass line that would be, for example, and let's see the frequency. Let's turn this guy off. Tick, tick. So this guy is playing G0, yeah? So I could probably do something like that. Maybe start with a C sharp. I could even play a D maybe over here. Let's play a C. And then the last note, maybe we can go low, as this would probably, yeah. Because right now this G from the kick would probably fade and we could easily play this G. Let's hear it that way. Easy. Let's see on the other instrument. Or some sabi. Yeah, we can easily do something like that because we have really short kick. Yeah, this is super important, and I want you to, like, if there is any problem with your low end, like you don't know what happened, the kick doesn't punch, there's like all of this mud and everything, just come back and see whether your kick maybe it's too long, or maybe it's too low, or maybe it's too high and it collapses, or your bass line is too low or collides with the kick. So this is, I think, the most important bit, as this will make your life much, much more easier. And just with this thing in mind, you will avoid further issues you're gonna have. So with that being said, I think we can move to the patterns thing. So there are, yeah, let's say many ways we can approach patterns, but the ways I've seen it, like if we want to inject, and I think creating a pattern really comes down to the intention. Do you tune the bass according to the bass line? You mean the kick, or the other way around? I think I'm tuning the kick to the main sound. So I think this will, for example, a bass. If I would create a bass, then I would create a lead, something like that. Or if the bass is a lead sound, then it kind of like gives us the tonality. So I would then kick the tune the kick to the tonality of the bass line. Do you check? No, I don't check it. I don't check it, Kev. Most of my tracks, if I really want to, like the ones that are really good, I want to release them. So then the mastering engineer makes sure that they are in phase. And if there is any error, he would give me a feedback that I should correct something, or he or she would do any correction. So I don't think you have to worry about this at this point, because if you have a mastering engineer, he will make sure that it's all in phase. And if there are issues, yeah, he will or she will let you know. Okay, but coming back to my my thought, so it comes down to the intention, what we really want to achieve. Do we want to have a groove that is really dynamic, or do we want to build a groove that is deep, you know, and maybe has some sort of like a laid back feeling? Yeah, so there are maybe two ways we can approach this. So if we want to have a dynamic groove, then we would use something like this, like a pattern that has more notes or has shorter notes, because shorter notes, more dense notes, give us more intensity. So let's listen to that pattern. I think it has some sort of intensity. Let's do another version. So if we would copy this pattern and maybe do only like something like that. So maybe A and C and D and C. Let's see. So let's compare, and maybe let's do a third one when there is just an A. So this is, in my opinion, doesn't have that much drive. There is some drive going on. There is a lot of drive going on. So the thing to have in mind with the pattern, the more notes you have, the more driving the pattern is gonna be. The less notes you have, the less kind of laid back, like a deeper, more driving the pattern is gonna be. Hope that makes sense. Let me know if everything is clear. And going further, yep, okay. So, and going further, my way of creating a pattern, or good idea when you create a pattern, is if you really want to make a pattern in the bassline that's gonna have some sort of like a groove and dynamics to it, you need to combine a few elements. So this pattern, let's work this pattern. So this is nice, but I think we can make it nicer and let's do it. So I think doing something more creative or more pleasant sounding will incorporate adding or changing some notes and creating some variations. So the first thing that's really important is dynamics. Yeah. So we can hear that everything is on the same velocity, which doesn't create that much dynamic, or it's zero dynamic. But when we would, for example, make those notes, let's do something like that. And then let's do something like this. So we have, a bit of the groove. So maybe I'm going to do it that way or that way. I'm going to duplicate this, and this one's going to be all notes the same velocity, the first one, and then the second one has the velocity being altered. So let's hear it. No velocity. Once again, no velocity with velocity. So I can hear that there is some groove going on, and I always encourage people to have some velocity injected. So once we have that, I'm going to crop this. Okay, and now To make it more interesting, we will incorporate, so first thing is velocity. Second thing is different note and different note lengths. And I was talking about this in the groove, rhythm and groove workshop. If you haven't seen it yet, you can watch it once again. But when we will add, for example, an eighth note, Kev, I can hear you. If we would add, for example, an eighth note here, so let's do it once again this way. So I'm going to add an eighth note here, for example, and maybe an eighth note over there. And I'm gonna mute this one. So let's hear how that's gonna sound the first half with every note being 16th and then with few eighth notes. Yeah, maybe this one does not work that well. So let's do that guy. I'm going to do it the other way around because I think we're getting somewhere, but it just needs a small bit. Yeah. And now the first one. Which one seems better to you or more interesting? Yeah, the second has some groove, yeah, because there is some changes, and this is an important trait of a motif in some sense, because we are creating a small musical motif, small musical idea. To have a strong, to make better motifs or better quality, have better quality of motifs, better quality motifs, we need to inject the contrast. So the contrast was first the velocity, so dynamics, but then we can add a bit more contrast, and with this contrast we added a note length. So let's take it a step further. So I'm going to duplicate the second half, yeah, and then let's do, for example, another bit. So this note, we're gonna add a third length of the note. So we have only 16th and 8th notes, but I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do a dotted 8th note. Dotted 8th note or dotted note, it's a note and a half of the smaller notes. So if we have 16th, so dotted 8th note is an 8th note like that. So we have an 8th note over here. Sorry, and 1/16th. Dotted quarter note will be quarter note and an 8th note. Yeah, so if you really want to inject a lot of groove, or if you want to inject the groove on a higher level, you want to add dotted notes to add groove. Yeah, so let's hear the first half and then the second half, which have one dotted 8th note. So let's yeah, it adds a bit more groove. It makes like a and we are like kind of like falling into the kick over here. This pattern has a lot of like small notes. It's very groovy, but let me show you this thing in the different contexts. So I have a groove like that over here. Let me just turn this sound off for example for a moment. So this is our groove, really low, deep groove. But you see, I have 16th note, dotted 8th note, 2/16th, dotted 8th note, dotted 8th note, dotted 8th note. I actually could maybe make it even better with making this one longer. So let's focus only on the groove. So I hope that makes sense. Xavier is saying it creates a moment within the song. It's like a micro tension. Exactly, because there is a tension that we are expecting this equal division, but it's not. It's equal division and a half, which creates this moment of tension, which again like creates another, raises the bar, the quality bar of our motif. So this is yeah, example of this thing, yeah, going on in this like a sub bass groove. Okay, so patterns, different length notes, different. So this is the bit. What I also like and think that makes the pattern better. So let's create on this groove. It's adding an octave. So let's say we want to add an octave, for example, over here. So with one note, we will go an octave higher over here, and maybe in the second half, we will go with that one as well, and maybe let's do another one. So let's hear the first one. Let's do it that way. Okay, let's for the first one. First, no octaves. And then let's raise it. Okay, this one doesn't sound so good, to be honest, maybe because of the sound of this pattern. We are only this is very simple, but let me show you this on another example where I have some okay, so this is the bass line, and I have, you see, I'm only playing a note, which is A1, A2, A0, A2. A1, A0, A2. So this is basically a pattern of 3 notes, like a polyrhythmic. I could do it that way. So let's hear that first, this one in. Actually, there is some sound design going on, but let's do it on one note only. We can hear that the second half, when we are really adding those octaves, give us more drive, more interest. It's more, I think it just sounds better because the bass line now covers more frequency range. It kind of like works like a lead. Of course, there is some sound design applied, which makes this bass line sounding nice, but I think this is very important to add the octaves as well. Maybe one note, add octaves. Yeah. So this is important when you are creating the sound. And then the last bit I wanted to add that you don't always need to have you know, like a one instrument just playing low and playing bass line, or playing covering the space between the kick. This could be a combination, maybe 2 instruments or a tom or something. So let me just find a groove that this would make. For example, this one. Okay, this is a lot. Let me see something else. Here we have some bass line as well. No, I don't have example for that, but let's do ones from scratch. So maybe let's have, maybe if we want to have a bass line that's fairly stable, maybe something like that. And then let's, for example, super simple, maybe even boring. So let's add one more note. So it's okay. Now let's maybe add another sound. So I will probably do it that way so I can see what's going on, and maybe add a G here. Yeah, I'm going to do it that way. So you see, because this one is a long note, I'm going to add a bit of that groove, just adding some notes here and there. So I think, so we have now a groove, a low end that combines two notes. They don't clash that much because here I only have like a really something really sabby. Maybe I can even emphasize this with a EQ cut. And then on that guy, this is also very, we see really simple sound playing G1. So G1 was, once again, I'm just checking the frequencies, 98 hertz. And here we had, so 98 hertz, we will do a dip. Yeah, and this could work. So I can have two different characters, two different sounds, creating my low end, which makes, like, takes it to the next level. I could even have like a third sound maybe with this combination. Let's maybe try to add a third sound. But this could be also a bit too much. Let's, no, let me play some. No, that's too much. I'm thinking about some tom sound or something. So we could maybe try to add, I'm not gonna try, but when you do this, all right, let's see, maybe this is gonna work. So tom. Okay, I have some rack with toms. So maybe I'm just gonna add some tom. I'm just curious about this. Okay, so something like it. I think that's too much. Let's. Okay, I'm gonna make it super minimalistic. I think that works. So 3 layers. So when I create low end, I usually take those approaches. Yeah, so if I have a really good kick, really long kick, and that kick has already some, you know, nice subby low end, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna create bass line that it's higher above that kick. Then I'm gonna experiment with different note lengths, different octaves, adding extra sound. So this way I arrive to something like that. And I've learned that with this case, like, really less is more. You really need to be cautious about frequencies, not having everything really, really close over here on the EQ, being cautious about the rhythm, and then adding maybe a bit of sidechain compression just to make sure that there is a space for every bit playing. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions for everything I've said so far. So Jacob is saying, hi Jacob, don't know if you already talked about it, but when you have 2 or 3 bass elements, how do you mix them and do you tune them, or is it in key? So I think I'm just saying this. So if I want to have 2 or 3 elements, I will really make sure that they are separated when it comes to the frequency. Yeah, so and I think the safe space for low end is at least a third. So this will be 4 or 5. So a third is like a, if this is a first, 1, 2, 3, this is a third. Yeah, so minor third, big augmented third, I don't know, a bigger third. I don't know how to say it, but it's like 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 is bare minimum. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is okay. So you see this works because we are on longer notes. If I would play something like that, it's kind of okay, but I already hear that. I can hear in my headphones, and I'm kind of like tuned to this, that there is a clash of frequency, that we are having a boost in this frequency range. So I would have to, you know, maybe shorten those notes, which I would probably leave this, you know, alter this groove, which I don't want. So then this is the most important bit, to have this separation. And then with another sound coming in here, I don't know the frequency of that sound. I was just cautious about the rhythm. So if we would highlight all of them together, sorry, once again. Oh, do tick and tick. So when we have all of them together, we see that 2 of these guys, they play on the same rhythm, but we are playing A sharp 0 on this one, and on tom we are playing D1, which is again at least 7 semitones above. So this way I'm sure that this will translate well, and I don't have to do a lot of stuff for the mixdown. Yeah, the second bit is then I'm kind of like gluing this with the, and this is what I like to have. So there is a bit of glue. Glue is designed for that purpose, yeah, to have a bit of glue. If you want to have like more punch on the in the low end, you have to get longer attack, as this will let all the transient in. If we want to like really glue this, less attack, maybe longer release or auto even. But I found that like 10, 30, this kind of works. Now I can feel and hear them being separated. Now it's like create more coherence. So experiment with glue on a bass channel. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But how would you know if it's a tom? You need to tune, right, in order for it not to clash, to separate it. So do I have to tune it? Like I'm playing, so kick plays G, kick plays G, then the bass line plays, I guess we are playing somewhere around G, which is also the same frequency, but this is, you know, I fine tune it, so we are roughly maybe slightly lower above G. Yeah, it's G and something between, but that's okay. What I'm going is, if it sounds good, it is good. If it doesn't sound good, you can experiment, yeah? So with this tom, we could try to make it. When it doesn't sound right, you can try to tune it. Like I already know those scales, so I know that, for example, this would be a C minor scale. C minor scale has all of those sounds we are using. G minor would probably have all of those sounds as well. So it's a matter of, yeah, a bit of knowing the scales. So I highly encourage everyone to dig in a bit into music theory. So, you know, you don't have to think about it that much. But the rule of the thumb is, if it sounds good, it is good. Like you don't have to worry too much about it. If something doesn't work, maybe you can try lowering a kick a bit here and there. but from my experience, the kicks for the club sound system, like you really don't want to go lower than, like this is G, so I think the lowest I would go would probably be F or E. Right now there's a lot of sub, but E would still work, but you would have to really have good speakers in the sound club, or like for example my monitors would have a really hard time translating this frequency 40, so I don't do kicks like that, because it's like what we are playing, like C, and you have subs in the club play 40 and above, so this would probably be lost. So I recommend you do kicks from like F and above. So I hope that makes sense. Kev, do you always put the bass straight down in the middle? So if you have different elements in the bass, do you ever pan two elements apart a bit? Good question. So it depends. And let's have this example, which I wanted to show you. For example, this guy. So I have this, something like that, which kind of like hopes to address the question about layers in techno, whether add a sub bass or not. So let's say if we wouldn't have this guy playing, and this will be only our bass line playing A1, so I could I'm not really fan of this note. Maybe I would have to do this cut, but I would then probably, what I did, I cut all of that. So then I can hear that this sound needs some extra sub. And because this one is really stereo, like if we listen to it, yeah, it has a lot of, like it has some reverb, it has the delay. I would keep it that way. So with sub, it already gets the groove going. So for this sub, I'm not having any stereo content, no delays, no nothing. And I'm playing it mono. Yeah, so, and kick, so this is very mono. And I want to keep it that way, so to have bass and kick really straight, and then another sound stereo. I could have bass line playing stereo, like with this example. This is a stereo bass line, I would say, because it has echo. So what I would do if I would be mixing this, I would probably do something like that. I would add another EQ, EQ8. And what I would do is I would turn on MS. And maybe I would kind of emphasize the middle part. And I would probably take out all the something like that, versus, yeah, because another thing, all the sub frequencies like to 140, 120 hertz are being monoed in the club, so the sub bass can really play it. So you really, like, to avoid any phasing issues and to have that bass line really strong, like I would do this sort of bit. If I would have another layer of sounds over here, that would be like, maybe I would play this bass line, something like that. Maybe something like that, and I would have some melody playing on top, which would be very stereo and would have that washy thing. So then I would do something like that, utility. Then I would probably do like that, something like that. So I keep the groove that is created from the delay and from the echo, but I'm just narrowing it. So it doesn't occupy that much stereo space, because I want to have the stereo space being free for another element in the mix. This is the way I operate. And with bass lines in general, you need to be cautious, and it's not as one way or another. It really depends on the rest of the elements in the mix and in the track. But you can't have, as the same as with kick, you can't have strong long kick and really long and low bass line. The same way you can't have everything in the stereo. You want to have stuff in mono, you want to have stuff in stereo, and you need to be cautious. That's why I always say, like, sometimes people make tracks and there is like delay and reverbs on everything. And when there is on everything, there is not that punch and preciseness and that contrast that you're gonna achieve when you don't have this processing on every element, yeah? So I hope that makes sense.